Welcome to Sisters in Company Talking About It live show. Hosted by me, Dr. Sharon Cradle, and Sherelle Higgins. We will be discussing intriguing, intricate, inspirational, informative, and intelligent topics with our individual twists and talents.
We will present real stories, real solutions, and engage in real talk.
So we invite you to be our company every Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock p.m. as we focus on transcendent thinking that will move you forward. You become the company you keep.
What company do you keep? Oh yeah, we are biological sisters by way of the south side of Chicago. So get ready to keep company with us and our guests as we talk about it.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Sisters in Company Talking About It show. Thank you for tuning in. And as usual, all of our Facebook followers, social media followers, if you all could go to listenvisionlive.com, we would appreciate it. You can see the show in its entirety from there, as well as help us to get some ratings. So go to listenvisionlive.com. And of course, you're going to want to call into the show today. And the number again, and it's on the screen, is 833-202-8255. So everyone should know who this lady is that's sitting next to me, Walita Hawkins. Hello. She always just fills in when I can't be here or Sherelle can't be here, and so she's our co-host of the year, I guess. So we just really are so appreciative that you could sit in with us today while Sherelle is away. And of course, as Sherelle says, her boy has soccer. And I think, he's so good that he was invited to participate on some type of team today. So I'm like, go Jay. That's my nephew. That's what I'm talking about. So proud. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Walita open up with scripture. But what we're going to talk about today are some stories that's in the news. So listen closely, and we're really going to need your participation on some of these topics.
Yes. Our scripture for today can be found in 1 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 24. Declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all peoples. And so basically that's just saying that we just have to share the good news of Jesus Christ among the people, everybody among all the nations. And we know the condition that our nation is in, so it's important that we as Christians share the love of Christ. Amen.
Yes, and I wanted to open up by saying our hearts and prayers go out to anyone around the world who is a victim of gun violence and craziness. and so we just pray. We already know what's happening around the world, but even here in our own country, every time I turn on the news in the mornings as I'm getting dressed, I hear nothing but about gun violence. And so something has got to happen with the amount of guns that we have and the type of weapons that we have. And of course, we know that that's a big debate, but it's only a debate when it's not your child or your loved one. And so let's pray for all of the families. And as you all very well know, we've had some people who are close to us on the show who's lost children to gun violence. And so let's just pray for everyone experiencing that type of loss at this moment. So we already know that next Saturday is the 4th annual Woman Thou Art Great Women Sharpening Women Conference. That's my baby. I call that my labor of love, my occupation. And so it is my occupation, my labor of love. And I'm going to tell you today, last Wednesday, I was on WHUR. They promoted the conference for me for the 4th year in a row, which is a blessing. And I'm just so appreciative of WHUR. And of course, they're located right across the street from Listen Vision Live Studios. And today, I was featured on Sirius XM Urban View Channel 126. So those of you who have Sirius XM and you have it on your app or you go to the internet, you can just go back and play the segment. It aired at 12 today, and it's going to air again at 7 o'clock p.m. tonight. And
Live Nation.
It's called Next Nation, on Urban View, 126 Sirius XM. And the reason I'm sharing is because the host of Next Nation, Sylvia Austin, she is one of my speakers this year at the conference, and I just feel blessed to be able to have her to share the platform with all of our other fantastic speakers. So tickets are still on sale. You know, we sell tickets all the way up to the day of. Go ahead and get your tickets so that you can be accounted properly for food and gifts and everything else that we're going to do. And I'm so excited. As you can see, I have on my Woman Thou Art Great Women Sharpening Women t-shirt. And so just come on out, spread the word. We are excited. We did our last walkthrough at the Colony South Hotel on Friday, and I'm really excited about that space. When I walked in, it was just something special about the Colony South Hotel. So we're just, thanking everyone for their encouragement, their support, their prayers, everyone who's purchased tickets, all the people that keep saying they're getting tickets and cash apping me. And so we're excited. But I really, if I can, I'm going to try to come back and play a small clip of the interview that I had with Sylvia, because she said something that I think is very relevant to my conference. And so if I'm not able to pull it up, then please just go and listen to it if you have access to Sirius XM 126. And that's a big deal.
Yes.
That's a big deal. And one of the things Walida and I were talking about on the way over here is that, we always joke with Walida, and we're saying, well, Walida, you know everybody.
No.
And I told her, I said, well, what a blessing that is to put yourself out there like that, to meet people, because some people are closed in.
Yeah,
they don't want to meet new people, but to put yourself out there. And that's exactly what we did when it came to this conference. I continue to put myself out there to get name recognition, to talk about the quality of services. And every time God just shows up and shows out. And so don't, even when it looks rough, just hold your head up, be positive, and just meet someone, because when you meet people, you never know who people know
and how they can help you.
Exactly.
If you don't ask, you never know.
No.
You can just sit back and wonder, well, if I woulda, coulda, shoulda, just ask. They can say two things, yes or no.
That's exactly right. Yes or no, and that's it.
That's all. Yes or no.
That's right. And so, and a no, in a lot of instances, is good.
It's good, yeah.
So that you can be set up for your yes.
Yes. Ooh,
a no
that's good.
is good. I'm going to coin that. A no is sometimes good, so that you can be set up for your yes. And one of our ministers at church today, he blessed my soul this morning when he prayed the altar prayer. He set that atmosphere.
Yes,
when he talked about, how in the NFL and the NBA, you got a replay or a recall. Let me just tell you, that resonated with my spirit. Sometimes, when you don't get what you want right now, God will do an instant replay or a recall, and you're going to get it, and it's going to be right on time. So
turn it around.
Turn it around. Turn it around. And I know so many of you who are listening can attest to that testimony, to that particular analogy. And so we know that this is Women's History Month.
Yes,
and how awesome is that we have a whole month. I just get tickled by that. Although as far as I'm concerned, it's every day, right? Because we exist every day.
Yes.
And so it's very, very important. So what do I want to talk about today when it comes to Women's History Month? The first thing I want to share with you all, if you don't know, you need to just go ahead and just check this out right now. Tuskegee University just installed the first female, and she's African-American president in the history of Tuskegee University.
Wow.
Can you imagine how surreal that must be for her to be the first at Tuskegee, such a prestigious and well-known university in the United States of America and around the world. We know about the Tuskegee Airmen. We just know. So that is just huge. And so we want to make sure that we celebrate her. Celebrate her. And her name is Dr. Hold on. I just had it. With all my notes.
As Sherelle
I'll come back to her.
Sharon has all her notes.
I have all my notes. Oh, I have it right here. See? Oh, I just wasn't prepared. But her name is Dr. Lily D. McNair, and she is the 8th president of that institution. And again, when I look at numbers like that, I'm thinking, wow, this institution is well over 100 years old. And for it to only have 8 presidents, that tells you a lot about perhaps the quality of the selection process, right? The quality and the quality of the people that stay there, because they have long tenure. So check it out. If you've ever been to Tuskegee Institute, or if you attended there, if you know someone, that's a huge deal. So we applaud her. Let's applaud her.
Women's rules.
Yes, exactly. And let me tell you all, one of the topics that we discussed last year at our conference was women in cancer. And I'm just going to tell you that right there was just powerful on so many levels, because we had women who were diagnosed with some type of cancer. It was breast cancer, lung cancer. And I want to say, we had a daughter of a mom. I think she died from intestinal or pancreatic cancer. And then we had the oncologist, the mammographer. We had a pathologist there. So we just had so many people there, and it was amazing. So why do I bring that up? I'm not sure what's happening with in the news in terms of how they make their selections on what they're going to share. But I do want to share this. There is a doctor, and her name is Dr. Green, actually. And Dr. Green, she is pioneering a groundbreaking cancer treatment. And I know people right now who are close to me who are going through cancer, who have been diagnosed with cancer. And so this particular cancer, her name is Dr. Green, she actually is a physicist by trade, right? And she just figured out when she watched her mom, and I believe it was her uncle, go through cancer, and the way that she described how she saw the body break down just triggered something in her about there just has to be a cure. It has to be a better way to treat these our loved ones and other patients with cancer. And so her name is Dr. Green, Dr. Haida Nicole Green, and she was, of course, in the medical field, but she realized very quickly that in order to get dollars for research that she had to go into the university setting, right, and practice. So she is one of very few African-American female physicists in the country. And so I want you to do some research and check her out.
Right. And she needs funding.
She needs funding. She really needs funding. And
I think it was for her human trial.
For the human trial. So they know it exists, the human trials, and then to get the FDA approval because FDA has to approve it. But of course, I believe they said that she needed $10 million or something. And so just check her out, because I think all of us under our listening voices know someone, right?
Yeah.
I know your mom. If yes, everyone.
Two types of cancer.
Exactly, two types of cancer. And so please check her out, Dr. Green. She's a physicist. Because you never know who's going to be next, right?
And she's a sister.
Yes, she is.
She's a sister, and for nothing more, we need to support her efforts and donate to her cause so that she could get the money for the human trials, because there has to be a cure out there, and we have to keep her lifted in prayer.
Yes.
Because when someone finds a cure for something that's making so much money in the pharmaceutical industry, in the medical industry, they all of a sudden disappear or committed suicide, as they would say. So we have to keep her lifted in prayer that God will protect her until her research is
exactly
funded.
And what's so awesome about Dr. Green, I didn't put it together until just now. She got her undergrad degree from Alabama A&M. And then she went on to get her PhD from the University of Alabama. And then she served 2 years at Tuskegee Alabama, where she established the Oral Lee Smith Cancer Research Foundation and joined Morehouse School of Medicine. And that's where she's currently practicing, is at Morehouse School of Medicine. Is that incredible?
That's incredible.
And so when we talk about Women's History Month, there's so many women out here who are on the cutting edge, who are just doing some things. And it just goes along with the theme of our conference this year, being unapologetically great, right? Showing up. And so lastly, I want to mention two other ladies that I just think are phenomenal, and they're not all African American. We know that football in the NFL has it's always been men, right? Well, two young ladies, and those of you that follow football, you probably are like, Sharon, that's old news. Well, it's new news to me because I don't really follow it that much.
And it's Women's History Month.
And it's Women's History Month. That's right. And so there are two young ladies that I would like to highlight. The first one, most of you probably know, her name is Becca Longo. I believe I'm pronouncing that correct. Becca Longo. She's an American football kicker. Wow. She became the first woman to earn a college football scholarship to an NCAA school at the Division II level, right? And that was Adams State University. Wow. And while she was in high school, I think she injured her back and sustained some type of ankle injury, if I'm not mistaken. And so she kind of sat out for a while. I guess they call it redshirted. They redshirted her because she transferred from one high school to the next in her junior year, and they said that she was redshirted for that. But she also injured herself. And so this is how bad this young lady is. She also signed up or got a scholarship to play basketball. Oh, wow. And one of her goals is to
football
be
and basketball.
Exactly. And before I go on and say what I want to say next, the next young lady was Toni Harris, and she's an African-American female. She signed to play on college football at Central Methodist University in Missouri next season, which is coming up. Wow. And of course, she wants to one day play in the NFL. And she played safety for the East Los Angeles College in 2018. So she went to a community college first, recording 3 tackles and breaking up 1 pass during the team's 4-6 season. She also is so unapologetically great. She also was diagnosed with something. So she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer when she was 18, which she beat and still managed to achieve her athletic goals. That's awesome. And she's 22 years old now. And so these are some dynamic women that we need to talk about, because they did not let the obstacles or people say, well, you shouldn't do that, and all the negativity stop them from living their dreams. And this is what I want to say to people. Stop telling people what they cannot do.
That's right.
Just stop
That's
it.
Right.
Stop it. Because you don't know, you're not God, you didn't put them on this earth. They have a purpose. And so let people, particularly when it's something positive and it's out of the ordinary, right? Just because you won't do it doesn't mean that the other people cannot do it.
That's right.
And they're not designated to do it. So let's just learn to be a little more positive and encouraging of others as they pursue their goals.
And I'm sure they faced a lot of naysayers, in their journey, and I applaud them for taking the initiative to move forward. And I, my prayer is one day that women will break the barrier and be able to play in the NFL.
Right. So. It's not my dream,
Mine
my goal, but it's theirs. And I'm rooting for them to be successful at that, if that's what they want to do. Okay, so those were the Women's History Month, and I know Walita probably hasn't been able to bring this up, but Walita, tell them about you being featured in the Fayetteville newspaper.
I wasn't featured. Well, they did an article in the Fayetteville Observer, and when I was in church, my mom texted me and said, "You are in the Fayetteville Observer, and a few of my cousins." But when she sent me the clip of the article, it said from a Sunday school class in 1954. I said, "Ma'am, That would not be me.
Right, because you weren't there.
I was not born. So I talked to some of my older cousins that were in the picture as well, and it should have been around 1974, and that was me and my cousin Paula and Cheryl and Bob Rand and Mary Alice. We were in a Sunday school class. But I don't know what the article was about because
it's
she
hard to
didn't
pull
send
up.
me the whole, I tried to pull it up, so she didn't send me the whole article, but thank you for mentioning
Yes.
that. Sharon.
I just thought that was just great. You know, you never know where you're going to show up and how you're going to show up. At least we know about your foundation,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so so we're going to look that up to see if we can get a good copy of that article, which was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so next on the list is some things in the news.
In the news.
It's
a lot in the news now.
It's a lot in the news. And as my sister Sherelle, offered this as a suggestion for us today, I was thinking to myself, I just don't want to be depressed, because it's so much in the news.
It is.
But that's where we go mentally. It's so depressing. But guess what? There's a lot of other good stuff going on in the news. And so we just have to find it. We have to, just be prepared to listen to it and receive it, because you can be overwhelmed with the negativity. So what I do want to talk about is politics. I want to talk about it from the standpoint of who's running to be the presidential nominee in the Democratic Party. I hear a lot of back and forth about it's too many.
It's going to divide the vote.
It's going to divide the vote, all of that. I'm not so sure because we know that some people will start falling off based on polling and the support and money and all of that. And so again, I say go for it.
Because as we know, anybody can run.
Exactly.
I mean, if you
got to
feel
be 35 and born in the United States of America.
Yeah,
I think those qualifications should change, and I talked about that. I told them I will be willing to rewrite the job description for them if they would like.
They might take you up on that.
Well, I hope so. I really hope so. Well, I don't know if you all have seen the entire list, so I'm just going to read the list really quickly. A lot of these names you're familiar with. Some you may not be. So we have Beto O'Rourke, John Hickenlooper,
Never heard of
Jay Inslee, Bernie Sanders, Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Julian Castro, Tulsi Gabbard, John Delaney, Marianne Williamson, Andrew Yang, and Christian Gillibrand. And so you see, we have a very, very, we have a variety, a diverse group of women, men, seasoned, younger, running different racial backgrounds, just putting their name in the hat. And I can imagine that when they put their names in the hat, that they did not take it lightly, because the politics in our country can be rough. So
extremely.
And so I can't imagine that they took it lightly. So before we get into that, I'm going to take this call. Hello, caller. Welcome to Sisters and Company.
Well, hello. This is the favorite co-host.
Oh, no. I'm the favorite co-host.
Well, that is Sherelle on the call. Well, hello, sister. How are you?
I'm good. How are you all?
We're doing wonderful. Where are you?
I'm at the house now. The game is over. They won. They
Yeah,
played well.
Jalen. Yes.
It wasn't too cold outside. He had an awesome assist.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I want to call in and talk about in the news.
Okay, in the news. So we'll let you start. I started with politics, but go ahead and give us what you would like to talk about.
I want to talk about these raggedy parents paying for their kids to get these higher
Thank you. Thank you.
So for our listening audience, our other co-host, Sherelle, is on the line. So she called in, and we're going to give her the ability to talk about what she wants to talk about first. And she wants to discuss the cheating scandal at the college level that we've all heard about. So go ahead, Sherelle. What would you like to say about that?
I think it's just a shame that these parents took these slots away from kids who were actually deserving of those slots, and that it's so many other African Americans in jail for doing the exact same thing to get their kids just in kindergarten in the better school, and they didn't even pay no extra money.
Right.
Exactly.
So I want to know why they haven't released their mugshots yet.
Well,
especially Lori Loughlin and Felicity.
Right.
Right.
So let me just ask you all something. Are you all surprised?
Well, no, because it's probably been going on for a long time. And I'm of the mindset that someone got ticked off and told. But in having a conversation,
it was that financial guy.
Oh, okay.
It was this guy. He was having some financial issues, and they were investigating him. And he said, okay, well, I know about another story. I'll tell y'all about it if you give me some lenience.
Exactly.
So that's how that came out. He was like, wait a minute, hold on. I got some good information.
Right. So what about this? Because I was having a conversation with someone, and they said, well, they paid for their children to get into these schools, but they still had to maintain their grades. And I was like, well, maybe, because they may have been paying the professors at that point, or paying someone to take their test, or maybe just paying someone to go to class for them, because, you just don't know.
Well, for me, that's
I don't know how you skip over the first part to get to they still had to maintain their grades. Yeah. I don't think we can skip over the first part that they paid bribes and paid proctors to take these kids' tests and increase their scores, and got these kids in these schools illegally. You can't just skip over all of that and say, well, they had to maintain their grades.
But what are the legal ramifications for the school for doing that? Because you look at schools like Morris Brown, who was shut down. You look at Bennett's situation, and thank God that they were able to maintain their accreditation. So what is the accrediting board going to do to these schools that accepted that fund? And then what does that say for the people who receive degrees from these schools? I think there's a class action suit that someone is suing one of the universities because they're saying that their degree isn't looked upon, as being authentic because of the scandal and stuff.
Well, let me tell you something, a couple things. So you all were talking about it, of course, from the parents' perspective, and most people know that I was in K-12 education for 28 years. And so my class the other night, my business ethics class, asked me, do I think the students should receive some type of consequence? I said, absolutely. Yeah. I said, because if you know that your parents submitted a letter that said that you played crew, and you've never played crew a day in your life, and you're going to a university to play crew on a scholarship, then you knew. Right. And so, I do believe that they should have consequences. But on the other side of the house is the institutions.
And you, as a student, you also knew that you didn't do well on that SAT.
That's exactly right.
Or
that you only got a 900, right? Yeah. Yeah, you knew.
Right.
You knew.
Jalen took it for the first time last weekend, and he was like, that math part was hard.
It is.
He knows that if he comes back with a perfect score,
something's not right.
Something's going on.
Right. And so then on the other side of the house, when we talk about ethics from the organization standpoint, to have so many administrators, coaches, staff to be willing to take money to get students in, right? Because their parents want them in. That's a whole nother conversation because it really puts a negative eye on these schools. And who said these schools were elite?
Right.
They did.
They did.
Right. So
but then even what about the young lady, one of the daughters, when she found out about the scandal, she's on the yacht with one of the members of the board of trustees.
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
Like, come on.
Exactly.
I mean,
so we already know in our country, money, wealth, being affluent, it has certain privileges. And someone said to me, well, those kids were too dumb to get into schools. I said, no, I wouldn't say that. I would say that they couldn't get into those schools because a school would have accepted them and they would have done just fine. But it's about the prestige of it, right? And so I'm not going to say the kids are dumb, you know. I mean, I just don't believe that. But I do believe that some of them may have been. Well, what I'm saying, though, is a school would have accepted them. It just wouldn't have been those schools, right? And so it's so important for and then you're teaching kids entitlement. Right. You're teaching them entitlement and that they're better than the next person. And who I'm concerned about is which students were not able to go to those schools because of them. Right, exactly. You follow what I'm saying? And what we do know is that in any college admissions process, that some schools get so many applications, right? And they can only take so many in the freshman year. So let's say a college gets 10,000 applications for their freshman year. And they only have room for 1,000. That's 9,000 people they got to weed out. Right. And
who
so
will possibly qualify.
Exactly.
And work their butts off to get into the school, you know?
Exactly. And so I think having a class action lawsuit, I think it's important. You know, we're always talking about affirmative action. That was some affirmative action for you. You know? Yeah. And it's been going on a long time.
And what about the perspective that, you know, some of them were having doctors claim for them to have
ADHD
disability so that they can have extra time, you know, and yet, you know, these are the same people dogging out Jussie Smollett. Not that he was right, but dogging him out. But yet here we are taking advantage of saying, you know, you have a disability just so you can get extra time to take the test.
Exactly. And there's a young lady, African-American young lady, who took the SAT, and I think she got like a 900 or something, and then she studied and took it again, and she got a 1,400 or something like that. And guess what?
The SAT, the College Board, I think that's what they're called. They didn't want to accept it.
They didn't want to accept it, thinking she cheated and all of that. And there, you know, no evidence of that, right? None. She just went, she studied, and she learned what she needed to do to improve her test scores. And they are riding her as if she, you know, has committed some crime, you know. And so that particular story is a lot. And I know if you all want to call in or type some things on social media, maybe you have a different perspective. And so you have a lot of folks saying that the children are innocent. And I said, no, they're not. No. They're not innocent. These parents, when you have that kind of money, I'm thinking to myself, I think they paid anywhere from $100,000 to $6 million to this agency, this guy that had an agency. And I'm thinking, well, heck, you could have just sent them to.
And then didn't they say something about some of the schools were being bribed? Some of the coaches and things were being bribed. So what's going on with you that somebody has to bribe you? You know, so it's a lot bigger than that.
Right.
You know?
And that's why history will come back to haunt us. Yeah. And I promise you, you know about me because I'm telling I'm you know, dealing with my own story and handling myself, because I'm telling you, it will come back to haunt you. If you don't think so, you better ask somebody. So you better, you know, try to do as well as you can in life, and just be authentic about your stuff.
That's right.
Because it's out there. Just like we were saying that your picture just showed up in that newspaper today. We didn't know what that was about. It just showed up. You follow what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, Sherelle, I don't know if there's anything else you would like to say about that.
No, actually, I was getting ready to say, well, thank you, ladies, for your time and giving me some airtime to talk about that. And you can also chalk that up as what burns my soul.
Okay.
So what burns your soul?
Yeah. And so the other thing.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
All right. Thank you. So,
all right, bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. And so, you know, of course, that you know, was all over television, social media, that whole story. And so, Walida, I'm not sure if there's something else that you would like to share when it comes to that particular topic.
My mother reminded me, confession is good for the soul, bad for the reputation. That's what Lady V always says. But my mother reminded me, well, you know, you had to take summer classes at FAMU before you actually became a student in the fall semester. So I did. The day that I graduated from high school, I left that night to go to Florida A&M because the summer session started the very next day. So my SAT scores wasn't good. My GPA wasn't that good. I did run track. I did go on a partial track scholarship, but I had to go and take summer classes, before I could go. And so what if my mom had some money and she could have just paid somebody? You know what I'm saying? But how many people that's their story?
Yes.
We have to struggle, to just try to get into school, and it's just so disheartening.
Yes.
Just to know that is happening.
And we have so many students that work hard because they know that their parents and their families can't necessarily afford to send them to college, and they don't want the debt, so they are doing everything that they can to try to earn these scholarships.
Right.
And you have people that is able to pay people to go in and buy them a degree for the most part.
And then the organizations that have hired these people, like, okay, so when they graduate from college, and I'm sure they're going to go work for these big corporations and organizations, what are they thinking?
Yes.
I hired this person.
Right.
So it's bigger than I think what the part that we're focusing on.
I've had people to tell me, I'm not surprised, particularly some people that went to predominantly white institutions. They were like, the people that I was around, they cheated all the time. That's how they got through, and it was just no big deal in terms of that was a culture of the school. And but some people cheat to the point that when they go out into the workforce and they have to demonstrate their skills and their knowledge, they cannot do that. And so people start then going back. I'm telling you from an HR perspective. Then you start going back and looking at people's transcripts in a different way and asking some different kind of questions. And so people begin to lie about what it is they have achieved when they really haven't achieved much. And that's a problem. And so I'm just saying, make sure that if you are trying to get your child in school, just be honest, because one school will take her. Or him. They can get into a school.
They can get into a school, yeah.
Right? That's just the truth about it. If they work towards it. Sometimes students have to start at a community college, or they have to take a gap year, or whatever it takes for them to really, really beef up on their skills. But lying and cheating to get into the school really is going to come back to haunt you when you have to demonstrate your skill set.
Exactly.
Okay, so we know that was a lot. And so I'm going to go back to the presidential run. And so, our listening audience, what do you think about when you think about who you're going to cast a vote for in the presidential election? What kind of attributes and characteristics do you really look at when it comes to the candidate that you think would do well for the country? And have you thought about that, Walida?
In light of our current leader,
it's changed.
Your
requirements changed.
My requirements have changed, and what I'm going to do prior to make a decision, it's going to take a lot, unless you are of a political mindset, and you're just in that arena. I believe it's going to take a lot of studying and doing some research. What are their policies? What are their policies in terms of judges and laws and things of that nature? Because I don't think I don't even think the people that voted for Trump even looked at, what his policies were and what in terms of law and who was he going to bring onto the Supreme Court. You know what I mean?
I think they did.
All of that stuff.
I think they did, because I think that was the point.
Well,
yes, that was one of the points. No doubt.
Well, yeah, but that's what, so I would just kind of, I'm going to kind of do some research, just to see what they're about. And especially these no-name people. Because like we were saying, I believe that with a lot of those people, the vote may split, and you were saying you don't think so or whatever, but still we need to find out where these no-name people are coming from and what are their policies, what are their beliefs, and where do they stand on different issues and topics. I think we just really need to do our research, and we cannot depend on the media.
We can't. We have to do it.
Because the media wants you to believe what they're saying. And so many people just take for granted everything that comes on the news. Oh, well, did you know such and such? Well, did you do your research?
Right.
You know, did you do your research? So I think that's going to be a turning point for me, and as it should be for everyone.
Right. And so my sentiments around that is, do we really believe what we say we believe? Because what I see oftentimes is that we say one thing and then we turn around and do something different. You know, people always say some people vote against their interests, or do they really? Somebody said anybody but 45.
Right.
He said, which no names you talking about? So that's a very good question about which no names you talking about. I'm going to even do some research on the people that have name recognition as well.
That's true.
Right, to make
That's
sure that
true.
we fully understand. And so some of the names she said she had never heard of. I think you said you had never heard of John Hickenlooper,
Right.
Jay Inslee. I mean, it's just a whole list of
Right.
them,
Jay Inslee,
of people
never heard of
that people have never heard of, and people go with, you know, name recognition only. But I think they all deserve,
Well, yeah, they do.
you know, some sense of research, so that we just won't say that because we don't know them or we don't know the name that we're not going to vote for them, or we are going to vote for them, just to have something different in office. So I hope that answered your question, Paul. And so what attributes? And so I just started writing down some things. To me, your character.
Yeah, I was going to say integrity.
Character. And when I thought about that particular attribute, I was thinking politics. This is just how I see politics on a limited level, because I've never been in politics. But it seems like most people that go into politics, they really have the desire to do well. You know, they want to do good. They want to honor their commitments and all of that. But it's something about once you cross that threshold that can change people who they are fundamentally. And I believe that a lot of it perhaps has to do with money and getting things done.
Action committees, you know, that's a whole different area that has to be looked at and examined when you're looking at, you know, the candidates for presidency. You know, what political action committees are they affiliated with?
Exactly. And so, you know, where are they getting their money from? What is required? Because most people that go into office, they want to, you know, do as many terms as they're allowed to do. And then so they have to start doing some things, compromising, right? Not just compromising with the other side, but sometimes compromising who they are. Exactly.
Right. Their own beliefs.
Exactly. You know? Their own beliefs. And that's a game, you know, all by itself. And so I'm thinking the person's character, somebody that will, and this burns my soul, so I'm just jumping right to that, you know, just look you in your face and tell you that you didn't hear what you just heard them say. Right. And it's insulting, and it's scary, because if you will stand there and do that, and a lot of people call some of this, you know, narcissistic behavior, you know, some narcissistic behavior that's going on, it's problematic. And so I also believe that a president needs to have, somebody in any political office going into these leadership roles needs to have some understanding of organizational leadership. Right? It's not about you, leader.
Right.
It is about the people. It's about the people. It's about the business goals. It's about and you're just kind of guiding that and helping to bring the vision to life. And so it's about understanding what is needed for the organization, or for, you know, and you can't run the country like it's an organization.
Right.
But you do need to understand organizational leadership from the standpoint that you really cannot work without a team. You can't do this by yourself. You have to know how the organization works. So, hint, you got to understand the Constitution of the United States of America.
Number one.
I just wanted to go there. You have to understand the Constitution of the United States of America, because if you do not, you begin to compromise, and you begin to look foolish.
As we see.
Exactly. And people around the world are looking at our country particularly, because we've always put ourselves out there as the United States of America as, you know, we are the best, right? And when you don't have the best in front of the world, they start looking at us like, what in the world happened? So what do you think about the leadership piece of it in terms of running a country?
It's important, because you need, like you said, you need leadership skills, and you need a team that has the best interest. not only do you need to have the best interests of the nation, your leadership team has to have the best interests of the nation, not your best interests.
Right.
Because that's what we see playing out now.
Right.
And I think the team is important.
Exactly. So it's about what is best for the country in terms of moving the country forward. And even if you do not get the majority of the vote, you're still the president of the United States. And
right.
so you can't just focus on what that minority vote gave you, because that's just how our country operates. That minority vote, what they wanted. You have to also meet the needs of everybody in this country. And so I would also say then that someone running for president, if I think about it, they need to have a flexible mindset. They need to be flexible in their thinking, because see, we all, come to the table sometimes and this is just what we believe,
and that's
and that's it.
That's all.
But when you
hear nothing else.
right. And so when you have people around you that's giving you some different information, a different perspective, hopefully you're taking it in, you're listening, and hopefully you can be flexible in terms of how you roll out policy. And so a flexible mindset is so very important, because we're in 2019, we're not in 1960. Let me say that again. We're in 2019, not 1960. And I can't think of that sister's name that's been all over the news and social media. I think she's on a county council or city council, and they were talking about gun rights. And she let them have it in that chamber. She was not playing, and they're trying to silence her. And she was like, "I was elected here too, and I'm concerned about gun violence," because she's African American female, and she's saying, "Yeah, I'm worried about my kid and your kid too, and that some of them walk into that chamber where they have their meetings and they got guns
yeah.
right?" And she's just they just let her have it, because she was not going to be silenced by anyone. And so we need people. That's my point is, we need people like that to fight, for what is right, because people elected people to these offices.
Yeah.
And you need to do what we're electing you to do. Just like, I don't know if you all saw it today, right over here in Arlington, Virginia, they had a meeting last night about Amazon coming to Arlington.
I saw that.
And so you had some people that showed up who were not pleased because
they don't fear of being displaced.
Right. And what else? Taxes. The tax breaks that they're going to give the richest company in the world. And those people, they just weren't having it, and they made sure their voices was heard. And the way that the meeting was run, as far as I was concerned, it was somewhat disrespectful, because these people voted for these people to be in office. And so for you to tell these people that, we're going to move on, we're not going to let you talk and all of that,
right.
I'm thinking, well, you just lost some votes. I hope you're not running for office again. And guess what? They still unanimously voted for Amazon to come. I don't know how I feel about that either way. I have no dog in the fight, but those people in that community did.
And then when something like that happens, you have to continue to voice your opinion and still vote. You can't.
Exactly.
Oftentimes when things don't go the way that people want them to go, they'll like, well, I'm not voting no more because I voted for this person and that happened. You know what I mean? And so that's a lost vote. And so we don't want that to happen, because it's going to be very important in 2020 that everyone gets out and vote. Despite, because we cannot allow negative 45 to get another term, because, some people really have the mindset. I was talking to someone at work. My vote don't matter. It does. And we have to just kind of change the mindset of people.
And we really have to decide, what are we voting for? What issues are important to us? And believe it or not, I never really thought about this until I started thinking through this thing since 2016 about what's important to me, Sharon. And I'm going to tell you something. The environment is important. I'm just very concerned, and I don't hear anyone really talking about the environment.
No, because he cut out the laws that President Obama put in place for the Environmental Protection Agency.
Right.
So having two sons, asthmatic and severe allergies, that's a concern.
It is a
because
concern.
our environment is important, and we're wondering why there are so many cases of cancer and so many diseases just coming out of the woodwork, and and I think it's environmental.
Yes.
And so.
Yes, and so the environmental issues, and I'm thinking about environmental issues from a different perspective. I'm thinking about environmental issues from the perspective that the scientists, there was a story about all of these scientists around the world that got together, and they talked about the earth, and this just really made sense to me. They said, look, human beings, the earth has always been here, and the earth is going to do what it needs to do to regenerate, to retake, do what it does so it can be here, because it's going to be here long after we're gone. But if we don't start making some changes as human beings to how we take care of the environment, we are not going to be able to exist on earth.
Wow.
And that was powerful to me. And we have like a short period of time to make that happen. So now you're seeing stores and restaurants getting rid of the straws, plastic straws, and some other things. But I think it's deeper than plastic, right? And so those are the types of things I'm worried about. And I don't have a dog in the fight because I don't have any children, but I have nieces and nephews, and I have, family members that's coming behind me. And I want to do my part to at least try to leave a world that an earth that they can exist in.
Yeah,
because that's so important. And so I just bring that up as an example. And I know I would love to talk about this. I'm gonna find somebody that can come and really talk about this with us. Reparations. And I'm just going to leave that alone for descendants of slaves. And so I'll talk about that. I just think all of that is important. So I need you and, everybody that's listening, if you probably have already done so, just make sure that you are looking at more than a one issue type of thing for a president.
Right.
Because they got power of the pen, right? And we know that all politics is local, but that president represents us around the world and can make some decisions that's going to be long lasting. And I'm concerned about some of the long lasting impacts of his decisions that's going to have on us in years to come that we have no idea about.
No idea. Or no control over.
No control over. Right.
Yeah.
And so finally, I thought that was good. So we really could have dug into that conversation a lot more. But finally in the news, and when we came into the studio, we had some young people talking about nutrition, talking about some things they will eat, they won't eat. And Walida and I were talking about that. I said, I heard this morning on the news about eggs. Here we go again. Okay. They're saying that eggs, is high in cholesterol.
Well, we know that.
And that it causes you to have some type of, I don't know if it's heart disease or strokes or something. I can't remember exactly
Probably both.
And so I'm thinking, wow. And they're saying if you eat more than 1.5 egg a day, yeah. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, I love to eat a boiled egg like almost every day. And so are you confused?
Yeah,
I'm confused.
Because you can't eat anything now. They had this series about, what was that, What to Eat or whatever that series was called. They talked about the food. So then you can't eat meat, and so now they're talking about eggs and
milk.
And I think the young lady that was sitting here, she said eggs are bleached. And I'm like, come on. I said, I've
never heard that before.
So I had to look into that. But, sugar,
Yes,
so what are we
exactly.
going to be left to eat?
Yes, unless you're growing your own food.
But then look at the soil. So you're growing your own food, but who's saying that the soil that you're growing your food in is healthy?
Right.
And so I feel that way about organic food. They say, well, you should eat organic food and you should do that. But who's to say the soil that they're growing that in is healthy?
But this is what we know for sure, is that we have an abundance of diseases in the United States of America. We're supposed to be the richest, the smartest, but we have an abundance of disease. And what is it going back to? You know, is it the food? Is it the environment? Is it a combination of all of them? And people are just like, okay, it's confusing. You know, I'm going to try this diet, that diet, this diet, and just trying to make sense out of it. And it should be, eating food should be simple.
Right.
Eating food should be simple. Last night, Ira and I went out to dinner, and I ordered some fish. And the person was telling me where the fish was from, and it's like semi-farm raised. And I was thinking to myself, I didn't even want to get into the conversation, but I was thinking, like, what do you mean, semi-farm raised? So I guess you catch it.
You kidnapped it out of the water, and then you raised
catch
it
it
on the
fresh,
farm.
and then... And so, you know, we just don't know, and we just have to trust that the choices that we're making with food is working, is going to be...
Listen, I'm just going to continue to pray over my food.
Yes.
I'm going to eat me a good pork chop, eat me a good fried egg, and just say, in Jesus' name.
Exactly.
Because you just don't know.
Yes. Yeah, they tell you red wine is good for you one week, and then they say it's not. You know, it's just... It's confusing. Yeah, exactly. So it's just confusing. And as you all very well know, our engineer told us that we are out of time. So we really, really appreciate you all tuning in. And of course, Walita for sitting in as a co-host. And next weekend after the conference on Sunday, we're going to have Sylvia Austin as one of our guests. And of course, I'll have my mom and my sisters here to be on the show. So thank you all for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Welcome to Sisters in Company Talking About It live show. Hosted by me, Dr. Sharon Cradle, and Sherelle Higgins. We will be discussing intriguing, intricate, inspirational, informative, and intelligent topics with our individual twists and talents.
We will present real stories, real solutions, and engage in real talk.
So we invite you to be our company every Sunday afternoon at 3:00 p.m. as we focus on transcendent thinking that will move you forward. You become the company you keep.
What company do you keep? Oh yeah, we are biological sisters by way of the south side of Chicago. So get ready to keep company with us and our guests as we talk about it.